Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another Thursday morning bite-sized Buhl. My name is Kayla, and I've got a very special tour planned for us this morning. This morning, we are going to start by using the free software Stellarium. This is a software that you can use at home on your computer or on your cell phone, and you can follow along. The settings I have set up for today, we are looking at the sky over Pittsburgh at 5:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. Now, this is a very special time to be looking up. There are lots of beautiful things for us to see in our early morning sky. Starting our tour through our sky, looking directly south, you'll find what looks like a giant fish hook. In the Polynesian cultures, this was known as Maui's hook, and it was used for wayfinding or navigating using the stars, clouds, and other natural forces as a guide. The official constellation we find here is Scorpius, the scorpion. The scorpion has a bright red heart named Antares, which roughly translates to not Mars. Next door to our scorpion, we'll find another funny looking shape. We'll see what looks like a little teapot. Here is the handle. Here is the spout. If you look at it just right, you may even see steam rising out. Now, what we're seeing is not actually steam. We are actually looking at the Milky Way galaxy, our home galaxy. If you've ever tried to look at the stars in Pittsburgh, you'll notice that the lights wash out the sky. We call that light pollution. The Milky Way kind of creates its own form of light pollution that we can see here on Earth. The large bulge we see right beside our teapot, this is the center of our galaxy. There are thousands and thousands of stars clustered in this region. The starlight is bouncing off of gas and dust in space and creating that beautiful glow you can observe here on Earth. The trail you see leading up through the sky, that's the nearest spiral arm to the arm we live in. Now, the official constellation that we find here is called Sagittarius, the Centaur Archer. We can see the moon is nestled within the top of our teapot here. Now, these two constellations are very special. You may have heard of them before. You've probably heard of Sagittarius, and you probably know Scorpius better as Scorpio in astrology. In astrology, there are 12 symbols that they call the zodiac, and they're believed to represent different dates of birth. Now, how they determined those symbols was based in the stars. It was based on 12 very special constellations in our sky. These constellations encircle our planet. So once you find one, or in our case, we found two, you can find the others by swinging to the east or towards the west. Swinging to the east, we'll find Capricornus, the myrrh goat. Swinging to the west, we'll find Libra, the scales, Virgo, the maiden, and the tail of Leo, the lion. Throughout the year, the rest of the zodiac will slowly rise into our sky. Now, these constellations are very special, not because they will predict your futures or things about your personality, but because of where they fall in the sky. They fall along a path we call the ecliptic, which is the apparent path that the sun appears to take from our perspective here on Earth. Now, our solar system is like one giant pancake. It's very flat. So the zodiac is not just the path of the sun. We can see it's also the path of the moon, and it's the path of the major planets in our solar system. So if you're ever wanting to find a planet in the night sky, or our morning sky, you want to make sure you look along the path of the zodiac. And tomorrow at 5:30 in the morning, there are two planets we can see using just our eyes. Looking towards the east, towards Capricornus, you're going to see two very bright points of light. We're going to start with the brighter point here. We often call this our twilight star, but it's not a star at all. This is the planet Venus. And right next door, we can find the red planet, Mars. But let's get an up-close look at these planets. We're going to switch over to our Digistar software so that we can get an up-close view. We're looking at our southern sky here before we lift off. We can see the path of the zodiac arcing across the sky. But let's go find our planets. We're going to lift off from planet Earth. And let's start with Earth's fiery twin, Venus. Venus was named for the goddess of love and beauty because she is so bright and brilliant in our sky. Venus is often called Earth's fiery twin because they are very similar in size, but very different in appearance. Flying in, we can see NASA's Magellan space probe is going to come into view. This probe could actually look inside of the dense clouds of Venus that are normally too thick for us to see and found a fiery surface. Because of Venus's dense clouds, it actually is the hottest planet in our solar system, reaching nearly 900 degrees Fahrenheit, both day and night. And we're going to orbit around now so that we can find one of the tallest volcanoes on Venus. This is Mat Mons. It stands 5 miles above the surface of Venus. Now, the surface of Venus is so hot because of those thick clouds. Imagine your car on a hot summer day. The sunlight can reach down through the glass, but it cannot escape back out. So heat builds up in your car. The same thing is happening here on Venus. Sunlight pierces through the clouds, but the heat cannot escape back out, making it those increasingly hot temperatures. But let's head off to the red planet, Mars. Mars is one of the most explored planets in our solar system. We've sent lots of robots and probes to Mars so that we could learn more about it. And hopefully, in the next few years, we will be sending the first manned mission to Mars. The Artemis program, which is starting its liftoff soon, is going to be testing living on the moon so that we can prepare for living on Mars. Now, Mars is not red because it is hot, but it is red because of rusty iron on the surface. And let's see if we can get a look at some of those extreme features on Mars. We're going to slow down our orbit here so that we can fly in a little bit closer. And I'm just going to reposition our sun, one of the amazing things that we can do here with our Digistar software, so that we can get a look at the largest canyon in our solar system. This is Valles Marineris. It would stretch from coast to coast across the United States. And it is so wide that when you are standing inside of this canyon, you would not actually be able to tell that you were in a canyon at all because the canyon walls are so far away from you. Now we can see the winding imprint of ancient rivers and lakes all over Mars, which is why Mars is one of the most exciting places for future scientists to explore. We know that Mars once had liquid water on its surface, so we believe it may have once been able to sustain life. Perseverance, a rover that left in 2020, landed on Mars and is drilling into the Martian surface, looking for signs of ancient life. It's collecting soil samples that will be sent back to Earth so that we can collect data and hopefully find some signs of ancient life on the Martian surface. But there's actually one more planet that we can spot if we happen to wake up a little closer to sunrise. You may catch a glimpse of one more planet. So let's switch back over to our Stellarium software to see if we can find one more planet in our sky. A little closer to sunrise, depending on where you live, you may be able to catch a glimpse of this. If you have any tall trees in your neighborhood, unfortunately, you might not be able to spot it before the sun rises. But we're going to advance time to just a little before 6 o'clock here. And you can spot one more planet very close to the horizon. This is one of my favorite planets to visit in our Digistar software. This is the beautiful ringed planet, Saturn. And let's take a quick flight there. Now, Saturn is, of course, known for its spectacular rings. Those rings are about 175,000 miles wide, but on average, only about 30 feet thick. Now, because those rings are so thin, like a magician, they can perform a disappearing act. As Saturn orbits around the sun, just like Earth, it wobbles on its axis. It tilts towards the sun and away from the sun. It looks like we hit the wrong button. We took a quick trip to Uranus. Now, as it's orbiting around and it tilts towards and away from the sun, for a very brief period of time, we look at those rings edge on. And because they are so thin and Saturn is so far away from us here on Earth, when we look at the rings edge on, they actually appear to disappear from our view for a very brief period of time. Now, Saturn's rings are not solid lines. They're actually made up of billions of pieces of ice, rock, and other material that is in orbit around Saturn. And we can fly in for a closer look at all of this ring material. The light from the sun bounces off of all of this debris and creates the beautiful golden disk that we are so used to seeing when we look at pictures of Saturn. Now, astronomers still debate where all this debris came from. Some believe it was leftover debris from when Saturn was forming. Others believe that it may be chunks of moons that were crashed into by meteorites long ago. Now, Saturn is not the only gas giant in our solar system to have rings, but its rings are by far the most impressive. Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune all have very faint rings as well, but without the help of infrared cameras, they are nearly impossible for us to see. Now, we've gotten to take a glimpse at 3 planets that you can spot in our morning sky. Let's head back to Earth. Just by looking up, you can spot Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn looking up at the right time of year. We're very lucky that this time of year we can spot 3 of those planets at once in our early morning sky. I want to thank you all for taking a little bit of time to journey with me this morning. I hope you all enjoyed the little journey. I invite you all to come tune in next week, right here, for another bite-sized Buhl. Have a wonderful rest of your week, everyone. Thank you all for joining me.